So I got a message on Instagram a little over a year ago from somebody saying that her dad was a victim of a scam and explaining everything that happened and asking if there was anything I could do to help.
The message said, "Finding your show is the first glimpse of hope I've had in 2 years." Google Rodney Baldas. He's my father. And he will die in prison if I can't figure out how to bring him home. She said she was the daughter of a 70-year-old grandfather from Minnesota. She claimed is wrongfully imprisoned on drug trafficking charges 9,000 miles away in Mozambique, Africa. When I responded, I had no idea I'd be pulled into a global search for answers, climbing the ladder of a sophisticated African mafia I never knew existed.
You should be worried about your safety. Whistleblowers are being killed in the process of exposing the underworld. I'm the one who in charge. You understand?
My mission, to go undercover and come face to face with Rodney scammers, whose goal is to transform ordinary citizens into criminals.
You know, I get a lot of messages from people who think we're being scammed, but yours particularly resonated with me because it's actually a scam that I'd never heard about, but also because I'm very close with my own father. So, Nicole, tell me what happened to your dad.
Should I start way back at the beginning? Okay, so after my mom died...
Nicole tells me her father, Rodney, was a down-on-his-luck, out-of-work truck driver when he started receiving a series of emails. It seemed to be an unbelievable stroke of good fortune. A previously unknown relative in Italy had left Rodney an inheritance of $10.5 million.
And they said it was sort of a distant family member.
Yeah, and they had said that they reached out to other family members and received no response from them, and that he was the next in line to be contacted.
The emails asked Rodney to pay a processing fee to release his inheritance. But Rodney was broke. No problem, they said. And then they offered a solution. If Rodney agreed to travel to Maputo, Mozambique, everything would be paid for. He would sign some documents there. He would then take them to Europe to claim his $10.5 million.
And when he came to my house and told me, the first thing I thought of was like, okay, you're gonna get kidnapped and put into a diamond mine.
So you were skeptical right from the beginning?
I was, but I think once they said that they would pay for it all, that's what got him. Why are they gonna fly me halfway across the world if this isn't real?
So this is the email that started it all, is that right?
Yes.
And it comes from Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, which is interesting because Goodluck Jonathan was actually the president of Nigeria.
Rodney also received emails from someone impersonating the governor of Nigeria's central bank.
Our payment officials that you will meet will give you some gift items capable of enticing our other officials at the payment transfer centers in other countries. So basically, they were already immediately telling him that they were going to give him a bag with something that he was going to have to transport. And did you go through these emails, by the way, before he left?
No.
So you only had access to these emails
After.
Okay.
Yep.
According to Nicole, when Rodney arrived in Mozambique, he was met at his hotel by someone who handed him a suitcase. On July 26, 2019, while attempting to board his next flight, airport security pulled him aside and discovered that hidden inside the suitcase was heroin. A lot of heroin.
Trazia consigo 4,6 kg de heroína. Esta droga que é expressamente proibida aqui de circulação no nosso país.
the story exploded into a national news scandal.
Este cidadão americano foi detido no aeroporto internacional de Maputo com droga.
An American drug trafficker caught red-handed. A few months after his arrest, Rodney Baldas was tried, convicted, and sentenced to 18 years in prison. Knowing her father is likely to die behind bars, Nicole has spent the past 4 years desperately trying to prove his innocence.
I understand where people perceive it as, well, he should have known. But my dad was going through a lot of emotional stuff. He was really lonely.
Rodney's wife had passed away, and Nicole believes her father was desperate to save the family farm. This financial windfall would allow him to do it.
My dad knew how much I wanted that. And he thought that, you know, maybe if I can actually make this work, then I can buy the farm. That was his motivation, was trying to save the farm. A once-in-a-lifetime thing. What if it were actually true? 70 years old, widowed, broke, living in the middle of nowhere. I mean, he was a perfect target.
I've reported on scamming operations from West Africa to the West Indies and the Middle East, but I've never seen anything like Rodney's case. Most scams take place inside the internet. Scammers and their victims never physically interact. But Rodney met his contacts face to face. Which leads me to my biggest question. Was Rodney a willing drug trafficker? Or did someone else turn him into a mule? And if so, who? To answer these questions, I need to get closer to the scene of the crime.
O caso concreto do Sr. Baldos foi apanhado, nós chamamos em flagrante delito. Tentei fazer o possível, mas não conseguimos convencer o tribunal porque a nossa história não convence nem um bebê.
Hilario Sabonete is the defense attorney who represented Rodney Baldas at his trial.
Tu acreditas que ele não sabia que a heroína estava nas malas?
Bom, como advogado, eu tenho que acreditar a versão do meu cliente. Portanto, esta é a nossa profissão, nos impõe esse dever. Portanto,
Então tens as tuas suspeitas?
Tenho as minhas suspeitas, sim. Por exemplo, eu não consigo, através de uma comunicação com pessoas que ele não conhece, de que tem alguma herança na Itália. Como é que você vai receber uma herança se em nenhum momento já tiveste um familiar lá? Então é um pouco suspeito, mas...
Houve alguma tentativa de tentar ver quem é que era este indivíduo que lhe tinha dado a mala?
Ele está-me a colocar uma pergunta um pouco difícil, porque nem o próprio Rodney não sabe quem é esse indivíduo, não mencionou nome nenhum de alguém.
When I asked Hilario if the hotel had security camera footage that could have verified Rodney's claims, he said he requested this from the court, but only the court could have subpoenaed this evidence. Hilario emailed Nicole and repeatedly asked her to wire him $5,000 for a very particular reason.
For your father to get out of jail, you have to bribe the judge, and this is done by talking to him once or twice. Para libertar a cadeia, Hilario Sabonete, Nicole Baldos. E depois vai continuar a pedir... E pede 5 mil. This is normal. Bribery to a judge is very normal in Mozambique.
I wasn't able to independently verify whether Hilario offered this money to the judge.
Uma delas.
He tries to convince me it was for his services, not a bribe.
Honorários de advogado.
But the only thing he proves is that this whole case stinks. from the lack of evidence presented by the defense to what I learned next.
O tribunal dele durou quantos dias?
Foi dia, sim.
Só dia?
Sim, sim.
It's hard for me to believe that Rodney was sentenced to 18 years in prison in just a single day, and no further investigation was conducted by the local authorities. The public prosecutor never responded to my request for an interview, and the United States Embassy officially declined. I was unable to reach the judge who handled Rodney's case for comments. I'm 10,000 miles away from home, and no closer to the truth. Which means there's only one person left for me to talk to, and one place left to go.
Okay, so I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. It's the gates of the prison.
I admit, I'm naive, I'm stupid. That's what I'm guilty of. I am not guilty of being a drug trafficker. I did not expect to end up in this situation. But here I am.
Mashava Prison was built to house 800 inmates, but today it's packed with 3 times that number. And 70-year-old American Rodney Baldas is one of them.
So when they first started contacting you and they told you you had gotten this inheritance, were you suspicious at all?
After my wife died, every year they kept saying, well, we need you to send X number of dollars to us to pay for the lawyers. You know, I could never afford to do anything that they asked.
Mm-hmm. And that was to be able to release this inheritance that you thought.
To pay the lawyers to get it through the courts.
Right. How much was the total inheritance they told you?
10.5 million.
It was also 10.5 million,
Same amount?
Same amount.
Rodney isn't the only foreigner incarcerated here for drug trafficking. Dennis Hawkins is a Canadian citizen who received a similar series of emails.
I never got an inheritance from anybody before. I was just overjoyed. I was this once in a lifetime, right now. I would really believe the whole thing. I was like hook, line, and sinker.
Dennis was also arrested at the Maputo airport carrying a suitcase full of heroin, just 12 hours before Rodney.
It is crazy to me to think that there are 2 of you guys here, American, Canadian, here for the exact same reason.
Well, there were actually 3 of us.
There were 3 of you.
An 85-year-old Californian named William Vito Rubino was caught carrying cocaine and heroin 2 months before Dennis and Rodney.
The courts were the ones that branded us as 3 drug runners working all together, but we had never met before until we got here.
3 older men, each sent to the same city on the far side of the world. This cannot be a coincidence. When Rodney landed in Maputo, he didn't even have enough money to pay for his visa. So he reached out to one of the email contacts he believed represented the bank.
I sent him a text that I have no money to pay for my visa. And he said, is there a security guard there? I go, yeah. Those 2 had a conversation. That guard paid my visa.
Had you ever left the United States before?
Just on a cruise.
manera. I dance. Es de aquella manera. I dance.
And do you remember the name of the hotel you stayed at? You remember?
Palm Apartments.
It was the Palm Apartments Hotel?
Yeah.
That's where you stayed?
Rodney was instructed to wait for a bank representative. So that's what he did. He waited.
I didn't go out. I didn't know the area. I was scared, so I just stayed in the hotel room.
4 or 5 days passed, according to Rodney.
There was a guy that came that Thursday night. Showed up at midnight. He apologized profusely for not getting there. He says I was stuck in South Africa.
Is it possible he was South African?
The identification he showed me was South African.
Did you see the name or anything?
I don't remember what it was. And, you know, he dug out this binder of papers, and we signed all the papers.
Then, Rodney claims, he was handed a suitcase to hold these bank documents. But the case also contained gifts, including 2 bags of candy for him to take to his next destination. Before he left the country, he was arrested. Those bags of candy are what did him in.
And they said, "You're a drug smuggler, you're a drug runner." I said, "No, I'm not." But nobody believed a word I said.
As a former Marine, Rodney hoped that the U.S. government would get involved in his case. But so far, they haven't.
I will die here. I have no doubt about that.
Nicole, you know she's been trying everything she can to get you out.
Nicole is my anchor. She's my baby. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
For Rodney, Mashava may feel like the end of the line, but my investigation is just getting started. Rodney said the man who handed him the drug-filled suitcase was from South Africa. So that's where I head next.
I looked at the stuff that you guys had sent me, and I must say, initially, I thought it's just a scam, an online scam, until you figure out who paid for the flight.
I know Rodney didn't pay for his flights or his hotel room because I have the receipts, which I share with Nikki Troll, one of South Africa's top investigative journalists.
So I called the airline, and I got information about who paid for it. They're based in Nigeria.
No way.
Yes.
Nikki tells me that Rodney's tickets were paid for in cash at a travel agency 2,500 miles from Mozambique. Dennis Hawkins' flight was booked 2 days before Rodney's, also in Nigeria, and also paid for in cash.
Mariana, you're onto something really big here. This is a global network. You've got players in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Mozambique, all connected.
So we've come to the right place.
So those scammers, they're not in Mozambique. They are here in South Africa.
This is a bigger network than just a Mozambican drug syndicate. It is much bigger than just one man.
I now know that Rodney's trip was booked and paid for by Nigerians. And that may be the most important clue I've uncovered so far.
From what I've seen of the emails, the way they pay for the flights, the way they bond him to fly there, all of that fits in with the narrative that I see on a daily basis.
There's no doubt in your mind that they're Nigerians, people who did this.
Yes, definitely.
To help me understand this Nigerian connection, Nikki Troll puts me in touch with this man, who I'll call Mark. He's a special agent with United States Secret Service, part of an American-led international task force that combats cybercrimes.
Interpol has classified this specific Nigerian group, Black Axe, as the biggest criminal organization globally.
Black Axe is a group that's bigger than the Sinaloa cartel, than the mafia, than any of the other criminal groups that exist.
By far, we have identified them in 36 countries.
Mark believes the people who paid for Rodney's trip are almost certainly members of Black Axe, or another one of Nigeria's sophisticated mafias, whose activities are well documented on social media. These criminal organizations rake in billions of dollars each year through internet-based fraud. And due to South Africa's advanced infrastructure and fast internet, they've established a massive presence here, which is why Mark suspects that Rodney's scammers are close by.
My question is, why use Rodney as a drug mule?
He's an elderly person. He's a person from a first world country. He's not your likely suspect to traffic drugs through international airports.
Elder fraud. The number of scams targeting Americans over the age of 60 exploded during the pandemic.
These groups are targeting a vulnerable population, which is the elderly.
Criminals are conning elderly people into trafficking drugs.
These scams are becoming so widespread, they're increasingly covered by mainstream news.
7 pounds of meth. Drug-laden suitcases being carried by the elderly.
Law enforcement has a name for the victims: blind mules. If I'm going to find the architects behind Rodney's scam, Mark tells me I'll need a well-connected Nigerian source, one with a clear view of the scammer's world.
So I got connected to you through a contact that we both have in the Secret Service. You help them with information.
Yes, I did.
He tells me to call him Ben.
The vast majority of people who engage in this scam, they are with Nigerian syndicates. Like the Black Axe, they are notorious.
Black Axe started among the country's university students back in the 1970s as a kind of anti-colonial social justice movement. But over time, it evolved into a cult-like secret society that capitalized on crime.
Do you know anyone in that world that you think would be willing to talk to us?
So I know them, but you see, there's an oath of allegiance. They've sworn. And whistleblowers are being killed.
Nevertheless, a few nights later, Ben finds a veteran Nigerian scammer I'll call Max, who's willing to break that oath.
We don't work alone. We are a syndicate. Syndicate I'm talking about. It's called Black Axe.
Is that the group you belong to?
Black Axe.
Oh, you are a member of Black Axe.
Black Axe. Aye.
Have you ever heard of a case of a person who was told that they had an inheritance waiting for them in Africa, and then when they got here, they were used as a drug mule?
Yes. I mean, I've heard about it before. Not even once, not even twice.
Max and Ben tell me that most inheritance scams begin with a form letter that's created by the syndicate and emailed to thousands of potential victims around the world. Most people won't ever respond to these emails. But eventually, someone takes the bait. Someone like Rodney. And Nigeria scammers have a special name for these victims.
MAGA.
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 And that comes from which language?
It's a Nigeria lingo, like in the streets, the scamming lingo. MAGA is like it's like a fool. Let's put it that way. When you buy my story, you're already a MAGA. Now, I'm the one who in charge. I'm controlling you. Whatever I ask him or her to do, that's what he's gonna do.
So basically, you never get rid of the person that you're communicating with online. The idea is that at some point, this person might be valuable for you.
Yes.
Huh.
This guy's working group, they could transfer or they could sell the victim to the other group who are the drug dealers.
My next stop, to see if this brotherhood can connect me with a Black Axe drug dealer. One who can finally shine a light on how a MAGA was turned into a mule.
You know, the drug world is a chain. It's not something you do alone.
So you pay the person that gives you the contact of that victim as well, the scammer, basically.
Yeah.
He tells me to call him Chris. He's a drug smuggler who works with the Nigerian syndicates. And though he claims he didn't hand Rodney the suitcase that sealed his fate, he admits that blind mules are commonly used by Black Axe and other criminal organizations.
So the drugs that he was carrying, he says unknowingly carrying, it looked like it was candy. It didn't look like it was drugs.
Chris knows exactly what I mean, because he's done this before.
So it's drugs wrapped in as if they were candy.
Yes.
What kind?
This is the crystal.
Crystal. Is it all the candy or just some of them have?
Yeah, some of them.
Just some of them. Have you ever reached out to scammers telling them you were looking for a victim who was older?
Sometimes we use old people, yeah.
To be the drug mules, to traffic the drug?
Yeah. To transport the drug.
Because they're less suspicious?
Yeah.
He says this particular strategy is part of a 10,000-mile trafficking route both the U.S. Secret Service and Max and Ben told me about.
And so the corridor usually it comes through the east coast of Africa and through Tanzania, Mozambique, down to South Africa?
Yeah.
And is that mainly heroin?
Yeah.
It's called the Southern Route. Heroin is produced in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan and then moved into Pakistan, where it's smuggled inside shipping vessels that cross the Arabian Sea, arriving at African ports, like the one in Maputo, Mozambique, where the Nigerian syndicates take over. From there, they send the drugs north into European markets using MAGAs, clueless drug mules like Rodney.
I think there's a misconception, in my opinion, that the people that are victims of this are either very naive or not very smart. Do you think everybody can eventually become a MAGA?
Yes. Yes.
Everybody is scammable.
Everybody is scammable.
Are you guys scammable?
Yes. Anybody is scammable. It depends on the story.
It's time for me to put this idea to the test. From the start of my investigation, Nicole gave me all the emails that Rodney received from his scammers. So I decided to write them back. Not as Mariana van Zeller, but as a MAGA. You see, to catch a scammer, I have to play the fool. I use a fake name, and say I'm a friend of Rodney's following up on his inheritance. A friend who's doing business in Johannesburg. Perhaps we can meet. After a few weeks of back and forth, Rodney's scammers take the bait.
Hello, is this Mr. Gilbert Wilson? This is Zoe. We're supposed to meet today? Okay, I'm going to text you the name of the hotel and we can meet there in about 30 minutes.
Okay, I'm no problem.
Very good. I will talk to you in a bit.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So you will sit facing the main entrance.
Which is where here?
It is down there.
Okay.
And then obviously we will be monitoring what is being said. Look, it is unlikely that it will go into violence, but there's always a possibility. So we need to plan for that.
Catfishing the Nigerian mafia is dangerous, which is why I've called in Joe Vander Walt and his team to watch my back. Joe's a former officer in the South African military, who now specializes in private security throughout Africa.
Security is priority. Loss of life is non-negotiable.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm scheduled to meet Rodney Scammer at a nearby hotel. He calls himself Mr. Gilbert Wilson. Once I arrive, my team and I activate the hidden cameras we're using to capture my meeting. Now, I simply have to sit and wait for Mr. Gilbert Wilson.
You should be worried about your safety. He is not going to come alone. He could be with other guys who are hiding somewhere.
Joe and his security team are also here, strategically positioned for my safety. After a 15-minute wait, my contact finally arrives.
Zoe. Mr. Wilson, how are you doing? Nice to meet you.
Mr. Wilson believes I'm a friend of Rodney's named Zoe.
Would you like to sit down? Would you like something to drink? Sure, outside.
No.
Sure. Is that better for you?
He immediately alters the plan and wants us to move to another table. I'm worried that Joe won't be able to see me, but I have no choice.
How are you doing? Good. How are you? Tell me.
What's happening?
I know. So I've been in touch. You're here because of Mr. Godwin Emefiele, right?
One of Rodney's scammers called himself Godwin Emefiele.
I've been emailing with him. I don't know him. But I know Mr. Rodney Baldos, who you...
Mr. Baldos.
Yes, that's correct. But we're still talking about the $10.7 million, correct?
Sorry?
We're still talking about the inheritance.
Yes.
And it's still 10.7 million. 10.6. I didn't bring anything with me, but I can go get my passport information. It's up in my room. Okay, wait for me.
I step away from the table and pretend to go to my room. But when I return, I'm ready to confront this man. And I've brought backup. Joe is with me in case things go sideways.
So, Mr. Wilson, I'm actually going to come clean with you. I'm a journalist, and I'm doing an investigation into what happened to Mr. Rodney Baldos. Mr. Rodney Baldos, the person I just told you about, and I would very much like to talk to you or whoever you work with about the situation.
What happened to him? I don't know about him.
You know who Rodney Baldas is because that's the person that we started by talking about. I just
So who?
Rodney Baldas.
Mr. Wilson, or whoever this man really is, pretends he doesn't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know about him.
Okay, Mr. Wilson. Gilbert, right? Wilson Gilbert?
Who?
Your name? What's your name?
My name is Charles.
Charles.
Which means I don't even know what I'm talking about. Somebody called me to come and meet Catherine. Zeren Catherine.
No. You got here, you asked me if I
I don't
was
even know. I came here to meet. I just
Do you know Mr. Godwin? Do you know Mr. Godwin Emefiele?
I don't know Mr. Godwin. I swear, I don't know Mr. Godwin.
So I know that you are not telling me the truth because we just had this conversation and it was recorded. And I would very much.
Who's recording me and Commissioner?
I am. Do you know the problem, what it is with what you do? Is that you're putting innocent men in prison, right?
No.
He's now serving an 18-year life sentence.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
He excuses himself and leaves the scene.
He's nervous.
But Joe warns me that we also need to leave, and quickly. We've exposed a very profitable criminal organization, and we've captured one of its members on camera. If we're not careful, they could come after us.
The concern is that once we exit it, is somebody tailing us?
We drive until we're sure we've lost any tail. Then find a safe place to regroup.
Up until this point, they were ghosts. These people didn't exist apart from an email address. And now we actually have a face and a person that we've met with. We know they're real, and we know that these are the people that were involved in what happened to Rodney. As a journalist, I'm usually more of an observer, but in this case, it's become very personal.
That's because I have proof that Rodney was scammed. And he's stuck in prison while his scammers are still out there, fishing for their next victims. I know exactly where I need to go next, to share this evidence with the one person who believed in Rodney's innocence from the start. His daughter.
Did you ever think that you'd be coming to Mozambique, that you'd actually be here one day?
Absolutely not. It's still not real.
Nicole Baldas has made the 9,000-mile journey from small-town Minnesota to Maputo, Mozambique.
What has he said about you coming here?
He has told me, do not come here, many times. But I told him that it's not up to him anymore. I just want to hug him, you know, feel him. He's still on this planet, you know? It's been so long. 4 years is a long time to go without seeing a parent that you're used to seeing almost every day.
Olá, tudo bem? Muito bem, obrigada. Tudo bem? Sou Mariana van Zeller, tudo bem?
Sim.
E a Nicole, que é a filha do Rodney.
Tá bem.
A filha vai ver o pai pela primeira vez há 4 anos. Está super emocionada, como deve imaginar. Portanto, quanto menos tempo demorar, melhor para ela. Ok.
good to see you.
Even at 42, I'm still Daddy's little girl.
Separated by thousands of miles, this is the first time that Nicole has embraced her father since the morning he boarded that fateful flight to Mozambique.
No matter how knowledgeable you think your elder parents are, always be asking questions. Because you never know. He was so depressed at that time. And a lot of times going on a trip and seeing other parts of the world is what really brings you out of that, because you realize how big the world is. And you're just this little thing.
This little thing. In Rodney's case, it meant realizing that he's an unwitting drug mule in a global multi-billion-dollar business. The happy ending Rodney imagined was a windfall to help his family. For his scammers, the real windfall was selling drugs to high-paying customers in Europe. But at its heart, this wasn't really a story about drug smuggling or scamming. It's a human trafficking story. The product is the person.
Dad, I'm not going to argue with you on this. You will go to therapy when you come home.
Home. Rodney's fellow inmate, William Rubino, was sent there early on compassionate release. I think Nicole knows that if the US government doesn't intercede on her father's behalf, he may not be so lucky.
There was no attempt whatsoever in Mozambique or from anyone to try to clear his name, to try to prove it was all part of this bigger criminal syndicate. Why isn't more being done to combat that?
It's difficult to do these investigations to prevent potential victims from flying to other countries to pick up packages.
When you lure your victim to Mozambique through South Africa, it makes the investigation very complex. So it takes investigators that are highly skilled to be able to connect the dots.
Organizations like Black Axe commit crimes across borders precisely because it turns these cases into a multi-jurisdictional mess. One that requires international cooperation to catch and convict the perpetrators.
When you see that can be done, it's heartbreaking, and it's almost infuriating. But it's going to get out there, and hopefully eventually they're going to see that they got the wrong person.